There is something slightly odd about Maundy Thursday if you think about it long enough. Not the candles, not the solemnity, not even the fact that we're about to sing Latin at one another and feel quietly pleased about it. No, the odd thing is this. In John's Gospel, at the very moment when we rather expect Jesus to say, "Take, eat and drink," instead, he gets up, takes off his outer robe, his rabbi's robe, and starts doing the job that nobody else in the room wanted to do, foot washing. Which is not, I think we could all agree, how most churches would choose to launch their central act of worship. And yet, here we are, because on this night, as your service sheet reminds you, we're holding together two things that don't obviously belong together. The Eucharist, on the one hand, the source and the summit of the church's life, and this rather awkward, slightly embarrassing act of kneeling down with a towel and a bowl. Now, here's the thought that nags at me. What if the church had gone the other way? What if, instead of building everything around bread and wine, we had built everything around a basin and a towel? What if, instead of saying, "I'm just going to make my communion," we said, "I'm just going to wash someone's feet"? It would change the atmosphere somewhat, wouldn't it? You'd arrive at church slightly more cautiously, perhaps. You'd choose your seat a little bit more carefully, depending on whose feet you might be expecting to wash. You'd better wear socks, and some of us would simply not come at all at the very thought. And yet there is something here, isn't there? Because the foot washing exposes something that the Eucharist can sometimes allow us to hide from. At the Eucharist, I come forward, I receive, I am fed, I am nourished, I am given grace, I am given food for the journey, all of which is true, deeply true, beautifully true. But it is also, if we're not careful, a little bit comfortable. It's a little bit about me and my faith, my walk with God, my moment, my communion, my quiet encounter with God. Whereas foot washing, well, that's a bit inconvenient, isn't it? It involves someone else. It involves closeness. Not a terribly British thing to do. It involves humility on both sides. And it's frankly a little bit undignified. Peter, notice in the reading, is horrified, which is usually a good sign that something important is happening. "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" he says. Translation is, "Lord, this is not how this goes. You are the Lord and I am the disciple. There are rules here." And Jesus calmly dismantles those rules, because the shape of his life, the shape of God's life among us, is not upwards, but downwards. It's not grasping, but it's giving. It's not being served, but it's serving. And then, and this is the crucial bit, he says, "You also ought to do as I have done to you." Not admire what I've just done, not theologize about it, not form a small subcommittee to explore it over the next 3 years. Do it. Which brings me back to the Eucharist, because the danger is that we separate these two things, that we can treat the Eucharist as the real sacrament and the foot washing as a slightly optional extra for those who enjoy that sort of thing. But John won't let us do that, because, and notice this, In John's gospel, the foot washing is the shape of the Eucharist. Go home and read John's account of that night on which he was betrayed, and you'll find that surprisingly, John doesn't mention bread or wine at all. The text simply says they gathered for the Passover, and Jesus washed his disciples' feet. That's John's focus. Have a think about this. What is the Eucharist ultimately? It is Christ giving himself entirely, body and soul, without holding back. This is my body given for you. And what is foot washing? It is Christ giving himself entirely, without holding back, kneeling in the dust, touching tired, unlovely feet, loving to the very end. It's the same movement, the outward movement of God. It's the same self-giving. It's the same God. So perhaps the question is not which one should be central. The question is whether we have allowed them to belong together. Because if the Eucharist becomes something that I simply receive without ever becoming something that I embody, then perhaps I've missed the point of it. And if the foot washing becomes something that we perform only once a year, slightly self-consciously, and then forget all about, then perhaps we've missed that too. The Eucharist is not meant to make us more religious. It's meant to make us more like Christ, which is, if we're honest, a bit alarming. Because it means that when we come forward tonight with our hands outstretched, bread received, we're not just being fed, my brothers and sisters. We are being drawn into a pattern, into a way of life. A life that looks suspiciously like kneeling down with a towel. It means that the words, "Do this in remembrance of me," don't only refer to what happens at the altar, but they echo into kitchens and workplaces, into awkward conversations, into those moments when we would much rather stay comfortable and self-contained. Do this. Love like this. Give like this. Serve like this. Which is why I think the church in her wisdom has insisted on keeping both tonight. The bread and the basin. The cup and the towel. The mystery and the mess. Because we need both, don't we? We need to be fed because we cannot live this life on our own strength. And we need to be unsettled because otherwise we will turn the gospel into something safe and manageable and only personal to me. So tonight, come and receive. Come with empty hands. Come hungry. Come as you are. But don't be surprised if somewhere along the way, Christ quietly hands you a towel. And don't be surprised if he says with a gentle smile that is somehow both kind and utterly uncompromising, "Now you do it. Now you do it." Amen.